Hello, Galliana Angel here. Welcome to my first edition of my new series that's part of the overall Soul Chat. Important conversations our souls need to be having with one another right now. But this particular series is called Thank God You Don't, but What You Need to Know. And basically, it's an entire series of different issues and topics that you may have never had to experience or endure. And thank God for that, right? But other people have. And there's some really important, valuable things you need to know so that you can understand what they're dealing with, what they're going through, and possibly even be there to support them and help them through a very difficult time they could be going through, or are still healing from something they went through a long time ago. So throughout the series, we're going to have a bunch of different important topics, but the first one is something that I personally understand. And some of these are things that I have gone through, and that has inspired me to bring them up. But we're also going to be talking about things that I have no clue about firsthand, but I've taken the time to learn. And this particular topic is about prison. Prison or jail, whatever you call it in your area. There's different terms for different reasons. Here in the States, you go to jail first for the initial charges and indictment to happen. Then once you have been sentenced, if you get sentenced, then you get sent to prison. Or if you have to be held over for something for a long period of time or going across state lines or something, sometimes they'll send you to prison temporarily, but until they move you where you need to go. But anyway, that's not important. They have the same similar effect. Prison tends to be longer term, but some people are in jail for quite a long time as well. Whatever it is for you, your loved one, or in your area, hopefully you've never had to experience it. For me, personally, I grew up very blessed and never having experienced anything to do with prison or jail life. I came from a pretty law-abiding family that never had to tussle with the law. At least they never got caught. Let's just get real. I don't know what some of my family was doing that they just didn't get caught. But I never experienced any of my loved ones going to jail or prison. I knew people that had, and like many of us, it's just one of those things that other people deal with. You don't think you're ever going to deal with it yourself if you don't live a life that puts you in that danger, right? You think there's a lot of stereotypes around it that you think, well, as long as I do the right things, I hang with the right people, I'll never be at risk for that. And I don't know about where you live, but here in the States, there is a lot of stigma around prisoners. We tend to forget that some people get wrongly convicted and they actually didn't do the crime. Now, the majority of them did probably do the crime, but there are some people behind bars that don't deserve to be there, okay? And even if they did deserve to be there, unless they did some really evil, heinous crime, they're still human beings and they still deserve to be treated well. Now, that is up for debate for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people think, well, you do the crime, you do the time, you don't deserve basic human rights anymore. You should have made the right decisions. But that holier than thou attitude is really not healthy for anyone. Because unfortunately, let's just say the legal system is not perfect. Neither is the police system. And I'm not here to debate the police because there are people in my family that are heroes of mine that were police officers. And I truly do believe that the majority of police officers are amazing people. They are public servants that go out there with that attitude every day to serve their community. They want to catch the bad guys and get them off the streets so they don't hurt people. And they honestly want to do the right thing. And they make good choices when they're on the job. I am totally tuned into the fact, though, that there are bad apples in the group of a lot of police departments. And I understand that there is injustice when it comes to the police departments with many people who are wrongly accused, wrongly arrested, even harassed, or worse. So we're not going to get into that debate. Just know where my heart is and know that I see both sides of it. I do support my police. I do not support the corrupt police. I do support the community and the law-abiding people out there that do not deserve persecution by any member of the police force. So, with that said, it's also easy to think that everybody that goes to jail, gets arrested, is the bad guy, right? Police are working hard to keep those guys off the streets so that nobody is a victim of theirs, right? In theory, that all sounds wonderful. It sounds right on. But not everybody that's in jail or prison is bad. Not everybody that's in jail or prison should be written off. Most of them, maybe not most, but a lot of them are able to be rehabilitated. Some people were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Some people unknowingly got in with the wrong crowd. Some people had no intentions of committing a crime, and they get caught up into something that they didn't understand or see it coming. And next thing they know, it resulted in somebody getting hurt or worse. Let's just say that there is a different situation for every single inmate, some of which are victims too. Some of them, and now I'm not making excuses for horrible crimes. If you're a victim or love a victim or lost someone that was a victim, you deserve justice. You deserve justice for your loved one, and there absolutely should be accountability for the actions of everyone. Everyone. And I do believe if you did the crime that there should be some kind of a justice for the victim. But let's keep in mind we're all human. We're all imperfect. And some people don't have the base foundation coming into life that others do. Some people do not have a parental figure to take care of them, supervise them, to teach them the right way to act and the wrong way to act. Some people do not have a father in their life or a mother or both. Some people are caught up in the system from a very young age and already mistreated themselves, possibly abused in foster care and in the system, or abused by their family members. They don't have a foundation of right and wrong. And we can't rely on the school systems to teach it. We've seen that. So we need to keep in mind that not everybody gets a good start in life. Some people, all their role models are criminals, setting the example for them that it's okay to take what you want from whoever you want and thinking there's no consequence of it, not being taught that a victim gets hurt. Some of these people come into the system at such a young age, starting to commit crimes, getting caught up in gangs because they just want to belong or they need protection. Let's just say they get started and they don't even fathom. In the back of their mind, there's nothing telling them that somebody gets hurt. Or they aren't taught empathy and they don't come by it naturally. Again, not making excuses, but we can afford to have some compassion and empathy. And if we always stop and ask ourselves, where did this person come from? What have they been through? It can give us some real insight into why they may do what they do. Now, that's not always the case. Some people have a great upbringing and they are taught right from wrong and they know better and they just choose to make the mistake. Sometimes it's selfish. Other times, it's just a mistake. It may be a horrible mistake that resulted in somebody getting hurt, like drunk driving, or there's just a lot of things that people can get hurt when there's no intention behind it. And let's just face it, any one of us is one mistake away from potentially getting arrested and becoming labeled a criminal, an inmate. But now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about what happens when somebody goes to jail or prison. I personally chose the people that I hung out with carefully, including my partners. So I never thought in a million years I would ever have a family member in prison. In fact, I had a husband for over 20 years who never broke the law besides a traffic fine, never went to jail, never was arrested, never participated in criminal behavior, until one day he finally snapped and had enough of the chronic physical severe pain he was going through. Not only did he have an undiagnosed disc in his back that was destroyed and pressing on a nerve that constantly grated on him mentally, physically, day and night, 24/7, and they couldn't see it on the scan, so they wouldn't do anything for him. But in time, that led to depression and anxiety and all kinds of negative limiting beliefs that finally led him to think he had nowhere else to turn but to try illegal drugs. When he couldn't get help the legal way, but yet he couldn't see through the pain any longer, especially trying to work 2 jobs and support a disabled wife and 2 special needs children and a stepson, he couldn't see giving up or stopping. Something had to give. Now, again, not making excuses. Trust me, I have not cut this man any slack. But I have compassion for him. I know he was suffering. And he turned to illegal drugs, and before he knew it, before he could even tell what was going on, he became an addict. And not just an addict, but a drug dealer. Because again, in his warped sense of reality, because he was now on drugs and in such pain, he didn't want to affect our finances and our budget, which was already struggling. He didn't want to financially affect the family. So he thought he'd just do a couple quick runs for his dealer, and then he'd get his drugs for free. No money lost. And in the beginning, it was for that intention. Then after doing it a few times, and his dealer tossed him a little extra money, and after us suffering for so long with debt and difficulty managing our finances and not ever having the money that we desired, now his altered brain, who's chemically off balance, gave in to the greed and the selfishness, and he started doing it more and more for the money. And then he got arrested. Thank God he got arrested. I'm not here to bash the system, because I truly believe God stepped in and saved his life. I truly believe after totaling his car and several other near accidents, he would have either killed himself or someone else if he didn't get caught when he did. So I do believe it was a blessing in disguise when he got arrested. It saved his life, it got him clean, and he's going to be a better man for it. But he is currently serving 2 years in a penitentiary, away from his family, away from his children. A good father, a really good father who was making a real difference in his children's lives until he became so sick. A well-providing father. Now, our marriage was already struggling. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but let's just say he was a good provider and a good man at heart, with good intentions, made bad choices when it came down to it. So don't assume everybody that's in prison is an awful person. My husband is not an awful person. He's not always the best husband, but he was an incredible father and still is, and he will be when he gets back out and when he's staying healthy. But he made a mistake and he needs to do the time, and the minimum sentence for his crime was 2 years. And he may get out early, but probably not. But he's not a bad man, and he has been rehabilitated already. The pain was the problem. Shortly after he got arrested, they finally saw on the scan the pinched nerve. They got him surgery while the judge was nice enough to postpone the trial while he got his surgery. Now the pain is gone. When he gets out, the reason for the addiction is gone. But he'll be an addict for the rest of his life. But I do believe he'll be stronger than many just because the main reason for him starting is gone, the pain. And he's one of the lucky ones that didn't have cravings when he came off of it. So he has a better chance than some. But anyway, the point is, it's neither here nor there. Lots of amazing, wonderful people fall victim to crime, make mistakes, make a bad choice, and it only takes one bad choice to get your butt in jail, right? And then if you're found guilty, you go to prison or however it works in your country. But here's what you need to know. It's not just the victim that hurts, if there's a victim. It's not just the inmate that pays for the crime. And maybe it is the inmate's fault or responsibility. But there's a family behind that person that is struggling, is hurting, is suffering. There's possibly children that are suffering. The loss of their father or their mother. There's a brother or a sister or more that are suffering the loss of their best friend, their bro, their sister. There's a spouse or a partner that's hurting that now has to take all of the responsibility on, despite their situation, despite if they're disabled, despite if they were already working 50 hours a week, despite if their kids need to be taken to sports, despite if their kids need to be taken to band or choir, despite if their kid has special needs and needs to be taken to doctor's appointments or therapy, despite if the inmate was the one that did all of that, and now all that falls onto the shoulders of that partner. What if they don't have the time to do it? That child has to drop out of sports or music or art or whatever it is they love. Did you know that most jails and prisons do not provide anything for the inmates? Yeah, they get a jumper, a nice, pretty polyester, rayon, whatever, jumper. It's not weather appropriate, so if you have pants and you want to go and you have the blessing of getting to work out or do sports or go outside in the heat and you don't have shorts, oh well, or a short sleeve shirt if it's long sleeved, or vice versa. What if winter comes around and it's really cold in your area, but all you have is a short sleeve jumper, or less likely, but short pants? You don't have the appropriate clothing that you need for the seasons. And you get anything you get one, maybe two if you're lucky, but unlikely, one of everything. You don't get a different pair of underwear for every day of the week. You don't even get enough for half a week. You don't get a different shirt for half the week or a full week. You don't get sweatpants or pajamas or anything comfortable for sitting around 24 hours a day with nothing to do, or to work in if you got to work. And while they have a lot of things available in most prisons, sometimes you get lucky and you're offered a TV. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a tablet. Yeah, they'll provide that, but then you got to buy the batteries for the remote control. A lot of times you have to buy the cord to plug it in. So if you don't have the money for a charger or a cord, you don't get to access it. Now, please don't judge and say, well, you don't deserve all that if you're in prison. What if it's like my husband, who just had an addiction and there was no victim except for our family and him? And now he's spending 2 years of his life sitting there day in and day out. And yes, he signed up for classes and he signed up for work. But that's a lot of downtime that will drive you nuts. It will drive you insane if you don't have things to do to keep your mind busy. So half the time they don't get books for free. They don't get absolute daily necessities for free, like shampoo, conditioner, soap or body wash. If you're lucky, you get a crappy little thin piece of soap that's supposed to last you for months. You don't get toothpaste a lot of times, or if you do, you can't stand it. Makes you gag. A razor, just to shave, to feel like a man or a woman, shave your legs or your armpits. You don't get snacks. You get a free meal, 3 meals a day, but in most jails, it's inedible. And I'm not talking for picky people. My husband could eat anything. We called him the human garbage disposal because he would take anything that we didn't want to eat. He would eat it. Never picky. And he couldn't eat the slop that they gave him. You didn't even just get bread and butter. You got pig slop, stuff that wasn't recognizable. You couldn't tell what it was. Fortunately, the food got a little better in prison itself. But if you have any sensory issues, which a lot of people do, like can't eat anything bitter, or you can't eat certain textures, or can't eat anything spicy, don't worry about the spice because you have to pay for it. Everything's bland and has no flavor. If you want spice, you have to pay for salt and sugar and pepper. I'm not kidding you. Anything that you need daily to survive, you have to pay for. Well, how are you going to do that when you're in prison? So guess what? That burden falls on your loved ones. So the wife you left behind, or husband or child or whoever, that lost your income, your paycheck, as their main source of income, now is relying on a part-time check because they can't afford to work full-time now for all the responsibilities they have to take on for you being gone, or they're chronically ill or disabled and relying on a Social Security check that is not even barely enough to cover rent, let alone utilities, food, medications. Yeah, they've got to try and find some way to put money on your fund so that you have basic human necessity hygiene products or an extra pair of underwear. And in the middle of a pandemic, your loved ones are thinking, I don't want you wearing the same clothes 3-4 days in a row because of the germs that can accumulate between all of you. If you're all in there, and there are some people that have no loved ones to give them money, so they're literally wearing the same clothes 7 days a week. Underwear and socks too. And forget shoes. If you don't have a loved one to buy you shoes, you get hard sandals or shoes that hurt your feet so bad that it hurts to walk. So now your family members have to come up with a way to buy you all this stuff. And everything that you would normally buy out here on the outside costs 2 to 3 times more on the inside. So what I'm trying to tell you is that in most countries, not every country, but in most countries, jail and prison are a business. Their main concern is making money. They make money off your phone calls. They make money off of your visits because half the time they take your loved one and put them so many hours away that you can't possibly pack up your kids and go visit. So now you have to do a video online visit. A lot of times they charge you for that. You get charged to send an email. If you want to attach pictures or a document, it costs extra. Yeah, you get charged for everything. And most family members don't have the money to do that for their loved one. So there are family members that join together, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, brothers, sisters, mom, and dad, go in on a Christmas box or a birthday box for their loved one. And they struggle to come up with a couple $100 to try and provide everything their loved one needs for the whole year. Or worse, half a year, because the money doesn't go that far. They don't get that much for a couple $100. The same things we could buy out here at the dollar store and provide most of it. Yeah, no. The prices are as if you're shopping in a department store. But what about the emotional toll it takes? What about every holiday that comes around? Birthday. Even if you don't celebrate the holidays, your mind still goes to that date. And you know that your loved one's not here for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, for Hanukkah. Whatever you celebrate or recognize. Whatever's a family time. You know your loved one's not here. So you suffer. And you're reminded constantly. When you go to put up the decorations, it's not even Christmas time yet, but you go to put up the tree with your loved ones, your kids. And Daddy's not here to lift you up to put the star on the top of the tree. So, you may not have ever had to deal with that. Thank God. But what you need to know is that millions of people have and are dealing with it right now at a very important time of the year that usually involves their loved one. Maybe they committed the crime. Maybe they deserve to be there. But that doesn't take away the pain and the suffering. And you know that there's stigma for the people that are on the outside waiting on their loved one to come home. Did you know that they're afraid to tell people that their dad's in prison? They get made fun of at school if their daddy's in prison or their mommy's in prison, or both. How do you think it feels to say my husband or my wife's in prison? Knowing that there's judgment from those lucky enough to never have experienced it themselves. Did you know there's kind of a camaraderie, though, with others that know what you're going through because they get it? It's a sad club you never want to be a part of. Do you know it's really hard to schedule phone calls because your loved one calls when they get the chance, the opportunity, but yet it's never opportune for you when you're out somewhere trying to live life. You're at a doctor's appointment or you're out at dinner or the mall or someplace trying to Christmas shop, and all of a sudden you see that number and you're like, oh Lord, you know it's a number from the prison and you can't talk. So if you can't talk, your loved one might not get another chance to call for a while. Let's just say there's so much more than that. And in some prisons, there's abuse, horrid violence. There's so much more than that. And we can't, as loved ones, think that they're safe in there. We may be grateful they're off the streets, not hurting themselves, but what about what's going on in there? And you can't be there to protect them. You can't be there to help them. You feel pretty helpless. So just remember, when you're talking to someone that's going through this, or you're talking to a past inmate that did time. Lose the judgment. It does nobody any good. If they serve their time like a man or a woman without constantly trying to get out, then that deserves respect. They made a mistake and they paid for it. They deserve a chance to have a job, to support themselves and work like everyone else. They deserve the chance to be a part of your club or your organization and put their life back together. How are they supposed to rehabilitate if you don't want them living in your community? I understand there are certain crimes that you may feel like you just can't forgive, and you certainly don't want them living down the street from you. I understand there are parameters and to what you can handle, and I understand. But the majority of inmates did not kill anybody or rape anybody or abuse a child. Some did, and it's a case-by-case basis, but if they come out, they deserve the chance to have some place to live. They got to live somewhere. They deserve the chance to prove to the community that they can be law-abiding citizens and contribute. Their loved ones deserve to put their lives back together with that loved one without feeling persecuted or judged, getting dirty looks from the neighbors or coworkers. How about we show some love and compassion? Maybe, just maybe, if someone had shown some love and compassion in the first place, that person might not have led to the life that got them put in there in the first place. A little love, compassion, and empathy goes a long way. So let's be a community that gathers around the loved ones that are left on the outside. Let's support them. Let's help them out with groceries, with cook a casserole, cook a meal, or offer to mow the grass or rake the leaves or something. Whatever you can do to support them while their loved one's away. Take the young boy or young girl and help her pick out a Christmas present, or take her for a walk with the family dog, or teach her some skill that you know, woodworking or how to change a tire. Big Brothers and Big Sisters is an amazing organization here in the States. I'm not sure if they're anywhere else, but they're an organization that supports young, less fortunate children, trying to give them a hand up with mentoring. And we can do that as a community. We can do that as neighbors. Let's start by not judging. Let's show some love and respect and empathy. Most importantly, put the shoe on the other foot and ask yourself, what would I do in that situation? What if that was me?